hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Harebrained Games. Today we're going to do a review of a game that I have recently procured as a result of the Compass Games sale. They send me an advertisement in the mail every year, one of the few actual in-mail advertisements I not only pay attention to, but love to go through item by item. Battle of Armageddon is apocalyptic warfare. Is a game for, up to 6 players. And in it, the return of the Lord is imminent in this game, and so the 6 major nations that are going to take part in the prophetic last days are going to do battle across the map of the Middle East. Let's just dive into it. All right, let's take a look at what comes in the Battle of Armageddon. You get a box, and you get a big map. That's right, a map of the Middle East in all its glory. Prepare for it to be changed forever. You also get each of the 6 factions involved get their own alliance card, their own set of reinforcement cards, which tell them how many reinforcement points you can bring in on your turn. And you're going to get, a stack of action cards, event cards that take place as well. These are not mere simple trinkets we carry. They're pretty mighty. You're also going to get 4 dice, which you're going to use for combat resolution, and every faction is going to get their own set of customized unique pieces. Infantry units, mech units, and of course tanks and aircraft. So, a little legend here, map legends, shows you a little bit about what you're going to do. Again, there's some sheets that tell you how to play the different player counts of the game. And finally, you get a manual. And the manual is not e-manual. No, just a manual. And then you're going to see that it has a lot of different examples, etc. It's not very long. It's a pretty short note. Lots of general notes in the back that kind of gives the mindset of the developer, some background notes on the Book of Revelation, and some of the prophecies in the Old Testament as we prepare for this journey. All right, there we go. Let's get into an example of play. All right, how do we play the Battle of Armageddon? I'm going to show you a little bit differently than I would normally. I'm not going to start off at the beginning. This isn't Genesis. This is more Revelations. The object of the game is to win. The win has one real specific criteria, and that is at the end of time, when the special end of time card is popped out from the deck, whoever controls Jerusalem wins. That's it. Seems simple, right? It's not. What happens is each faction is going to have a different penchant, a different plan, a different strategy that they're best equipped to employ. And during the course of the game, they're going to be doing basically whatever it takes to get to Jerusalem. Now, one of the things you're going to note about this is that there's a lot of population congestion, albeit. This is turn 2. We're starting on turn 2. I'm not saying this is optimally done, but I'm saying this is how we have set it up. What happens is each of the 6 sides, again, they have their card. For example, we have the Europeans. This is where the Antichrist will come up from. And you can make alliances with other players if you want. That's okay. Also, you're going to be given a certain amount of cards, reinforcement cards here. And those cards are going to just add up. There's nothing real special about them as far as like events or whatever. It's just you count them up, and whatever the sum is or the reinforcement points you can get so that you can reinforce your units later on. Why they're in cards and why you don't just get a number is that in the course of play, some of these events are going to change, cause you to lose some reinforcements. 50 million people may die, etc. So you have that. And everybody starts with 3 cards. 3 event cards, and in their hand they're going to keep 3 event cards. How does that work? Well, we'll find out. So you have all the sides. You have each one set up here. I've got Europeans, I've got the Americans, I've got Israel, and I've got the Arabs. I also have up north the kings of the north. Hi, Bob. We have Magog, which is going to be coming down from the north, and we have the great vast army from the east. Unnamed, but we kind of know. And those are the 6 sides that are going to take place. I've set it up the campaign game here, and everyone's getting, again, events. And these events, we're talking tactical nuclear weapons. Like, that's not something you're going to get every day, especially when you get a bunch of them in your hand. Oh, I got lots of nukes. Bombers, missiles, and not only do you have human things, but you also have angelic things. You've got events that are going to help with some sides, like in this case, the Arab player gets a bonus combat step after the Arab combat step. So in other words, he gets to make a double whammy. He gets to attack twice. And you're going to get trumpets, you're going to get vials, you're going to get seals. It's crazy. Each one depicting a particular portion of scripture that they can be found. Now, what's interesting is in this deck, there is a card. And there is a card that is the end of the game card. And we don't know where it is. It could be on the first card. It could be the seventh card. When that card comes up, it's over. That's it. Like, that's the end of the game. Whoever controls Jerusalem at that time is the winner. That is pretty jarring. And that might turn some people off, except for the fact that that's really what the game's about. There is one other alternate condition, and that is if you capture all the cities on the map and hold them for a complete turn. That's really, really not probably the way most of these games are end. Otherwise, you get the vials. The seventh vial opens, and if you hold Jerusalem, or you were the last person to have a piece in Jerusalem, then well, you win. Hurrah! The Lord returns, and then we get on to the more important matters of the spiritual business. So anyway, on a turn. This is how it's going to go. I'll give you a quick example here. We're on turn 2. Now on turn 1, some things happen in the campaign. First off, the only units that get to be out on the board are the Israeli units and the Arab units. So if you remove everything around you except the blue and the light brown, the golden yellow, that's all that you get to start with on the map. And the Israeli people, they get the advantage. They get to start with Jerusalem. So they're there. They're ready to go. All they got to do is just hold everybody off, right? Simple as pie. Not really. So surrounding them are the Arabs, at least on land. And that's where they start. Now what happens is on turn 1, certain other nations start to develop and come on board. And the turn order is very specific. For example, on the first turn, the kings of the east, with their millions and millions of men, are going to come across. And there's some rules about terrain. If you go into a mountain or you cross the river, you have to stop after you do. Otherwise, you get to move 3 if you're a foot unit and 4 if you're a mech unit. That's as easy as that. And so these guys on turn 1 came out here out of the gates. They came onto the map. Turn 2, they spread out, and then all of their units are on the map. They're all on there now. Now, for the Russians, Magog. For Magog, on turn 1, they do the same thing. They come down anywhere on the north part of this map, and they can start plowing in. There is a maximum amount of units that can be in any one hex, and that is 3 ground units and 1 air unit. And so that's why you can't just stack everything on one and move them out and become, basically a monolithic single unit. And so you've got to be careful. You've got to jockey positions. You can do whatever, but they come out. And then as well, you have the Americans and the Europeans. And those two, they come out on their first turn. All they do is place all their units here at C. And that's all they can do. I think we're on turn 3, actually, at C. And then they can fill out these Marines and paratroop columns. Why? Because that's the way that they're going to get onto the map. They don't just start off on the map. They got to make their way there across the sea. It makes sense. It's sensible. So they would start off here, they would be readying themselves, and then play would continue. And each side goes. Bob's going to help us. We start with the east. What are the people on the east are going to do? Well, obviously they're going to just make their way. 1, 2, 3. They're going to just plow their way. For them, it doesn't get interesting too much right away when they're going forward, as you can see. And then we do the Arabs, and the Arabs are going to try and conquer and whatever. They're going to do their move. Israel's going to hold off. They're going to do their move. The USA, when they're able to, after turn 1, and not only they can deploy Marines, which they can land anywhere on a C hex and go in and start, and they can do an attack like right away, and they get an advantage during combat if they're on their Marines and they're making a strike at that time. Paratroops can land anywhere. So hey, that's handy. Otherwise, they have to land in a port. But again, you have to respect the limits. So if you can only have 3 ports at a time for any faction, can only hold go into 3 of these units. You can see by the anchors here. Sorry, you can see by the anchors that there's lots of anchors away, and so they stay there. And then they go off and they get ready. The aircraft are an interesting point because everybody has aircraft. Planes can go anywhere. Planes can literally go from one place to any other place. It doesn't matter. They cannot. They have to be on. They attack adjacency, so you can't just like land them right in the middle. I mean, they couldn't just go, hey, here I am, I win. And there's only one in any hex. The helicopters, on the other hand, they have a maximum move of 6, but they have the advantage that they can pick up units and transport them, and so that gets good. And so what you see is this kind of flow, this natural, well, seemingly natural flow of all of the factions and the nations taking their turn, doing what they can. Now, why does it matter? They're all coming after Jerusalem, so everyone's focused on that. But everyone's an enemy, right? Not necessarily. The things that come into play are alliances. Say the Americans and the Europeans are like, we got to work together right now to carve a way to get into Jerusalem, but if we get in there and we just get blown away, then maybe the Arabs and I mean, we got to watch out for the million-man army. So they might make an alliance. Alliances are fickle. They matter to a point, but then they can also be broken at any time. That's kind of the nature of the battle here. Chaos. And so they have that advantage going on. And all of this seems like, well, let's get into battle. In a battle, things get really interesting. When you are done, when you have moved and finished doing all of your moving, and I'm going a little out of turn, but I'm explaining it because I want to focus on the map before we get to the coolest part. You say you are allowed to attack. Like, you can use all your units in attack. There's no limit. If you can get near somebody, you can attack. You can attack. Like, it's just, yeah, it's a bloodbath. Literally. Armageddon. It's right there in the name. So the thing about combat that's really interesting is that, one, it's generally pretty quick, but two, it's not simply a matter of rolling the dice. Let me explain. So right here we have, let's say that the Arabs are going to go, and they've decided, they've moved all their units as close as they can, which I've done here, and they want to attack. Say they want to attack in here. Okay, well, how does that work? So we're going to pull these out, and we're just going to have these go here. There we go. Yeah, no, I don't like that because it's, well, we'll just do that. There's some additional things going on. You can look at the turn order here and see how the sequence of battle goes. Air pieces fire first. Well, the Arabs are attacking, but they don't have any air pieces, and air pieces can only attack other air pieces or ground pieces. Ground pieces, sitting ducks. So you roll the dice. What do you get? I got a rock. I got a helicopter. This is one thing about the game that's different. You're not matching up the things you're hitting, you're matching up the things you're matching with as a source. So, say this, for example, say I rolled again, and I got this plane. That's a hit. So you're worrying about the source, not the target. That tricks some people up. They usually used to, look, I roll, and if I hit a mech, will I get a mech? No, that's not how it works. So you hit, so there's a hit. That phase is over, and so something has to, and there's a specific order of how stuff is removed. Helicopters, planes, and then infantry, they're first. But you don't just get rid of all infantry, too. So, like, you have to go down the order of losses. So, infantry, mechanized, tank, and you just keep repeating it for all the losses. So, it saves from getting rid of, like, 5 infantry, have the stack in, well, sorry, you couldn't do that, but 2 infantry and a tank. But, yeah, so... Anyway, so there we go. So the plane is done. He's done his action. And then any assaulting Marines. Again, if we had some Marines and they were here and they came in, say we had this group of here came in here and they wanted to attack in here, they would get to go first in the order. Why does it matter? Because that's the only time that you can not have to face return fire. So then we go. We don't have that going on. Then we have defending ground pieces and mountains fire. Now we were in a mountain over here, and so we could fire first. In this case, we're going to pretend that didn't happen. We're going to pretend they're out in the open, but this would again give them a chance for unreturned fire, which is a nice bonus. And then all the ground pieces work together simultaneously in stage 4. And so these 2 mechs would roll, and they, oh yeah, 1 match and 1 not match. Okay, so 1 hit, and then we have over here we have a mech and an infantry. We're going to roll. And we got a mech, and yeah, so each one of them did a hit. So again, we follow the chart, and here the infantry goes first, and here they're the mech, so the mech goes first, so they're gone. They're out of the picture. Goodbye. And there we go. Ground pieces attacking cross rivers. There is an additional phase for that, but that's really combat. If you survive, well, You survived. Congratulations. That didn't work. And you're going to go through it for all of these units and etc. You're also going to worry about Magog going. I mean, yeah, like as each person takes their turns, they're going to be going and they're going to be fighting. It's chaos. It's brutal. It's really, really end of the world nastiness as you would expect. Right, Bob? Happy little trees. All right. Now, all of this is cool, but all of this seems like, okay, everyone's kind of got their role, everyone's got what's going on, but this is still a little too subdued. There's still got to be more to this, right? There is, and that is where, again, these powerful cards, at the start of your turn or during your turn, you can play cards. So, for example, these, say we have the Israelites, and they've got an event. They're not going to play that. They're not going to play that. Ooh. But on their turn, destroy one incoming missile. They're going to play that and go, okay, that's going to happen. Then let's keep. Then it stays around so that if someone tries to mess with them, then they can destroy incoming missiles. Why does that matter? Because if you have an incoming missile, and again, at the start of your turn, before you even do any of the battle and stuff I showed you, you're going to be grabbing these cards. You can discard as many as you want and grab as many as you want. Ha-ha! Nuclear weapons. So say Israel says, you know what? Destroy 3 enemy pieces and hexes adjacent to your pieces. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. You're gone. Ha ha. I mean, it's that quick. And there's no retaliation. You're just done. Kill 1 enemy homeland population card or strategic weapon card. So you can go, you know what, Americans? Give me one of your cards. And they have to pick and grab one. And like, okay, now they don't get those reinforcements. Because reinforcements, again, when you start off in the game, you're not going to need reinforcements. It's just, you can see losses are going to mount up. And when that happens during your turn, you're going to add up how many of these cards, say for example, 2, 6, 8, 4, 8, 10, 12 points. 12 points of reinforcements means I can bring back, all right, I can bring back an air unit, a mech unit, a ground unit, mechanized unit, and an infantry unit. I can do all of that. I can add it up and I can put them anywhere I already have stuff. Or I can put them in particular places, towns, whatever, cities. There's rules for each side that kind of tell you how you can reinforce. But all that's going on, but none of that really captures how much it goes when you start to actually get into like these big events. Play immediately stops and begins with the Magog player's turn. You can use that anytime. You can literally halt the presses so that Magog can take on. You've got all pieces currently in the desert are eliminated. Yeah, that's mighty. That would be like gone. Well, that sucks. Except for people who aren't in the desert. Persia, like you get the Arab player receives previously eliminated pieces as reinforcements. It goes on and on. There's a lot of different cards here. The Antichrist. He's good for the Europeans, not good for anyone else. Take control of enemy pieces, so brainwashing. It all makes thematic sense, too. So you're going to be doing that, and it's going to go, and it's going to go, and it's going to go. You're just going to have Bloodbath City. Now, we haven't seen the East do much yet, and that's why, because their first few turns are basically making their way over. But there's extra little subtleties here. Once they make their way over, they can do human waves. They can stack a bunch of infantry, if they want to, all in a row. They can break that, and they can go attack. But the thing is, when they're done, they still have, at the end of the turn, they have to respect the rules. So anything they use for human waves, well, they got to go back down to 3, and everything else is just lost and back out onto their reinforcement table. So they can do some really crazy stuff. And again, we see Marines, we see paratroops dropping in anywhere to be able to take control of certain sections. The idea is, again, getting rid of cities. When they're gone, they're gone. There's some variants, but generally the cities are gone. They're gone. And if you control Jerusalem, there you are. There's Jerusalem. That's it. That's the epicenter. It's biblically delicious, and game-wise, it's pretty sound too. Whoever owns Jerusalem is the winner when the card comes up. Now, out of curiosity, we're gonna go see we're gonna try to find the end game card here. Just bear with me. It's just one card, but when you get it, ooh, is that it? Nope. It is Trumpet 4. There it is. The game is over. So this would have lasted till the end, but this could show up in turn 3. This could show up in turn 30. This could show up. So this is one of the things that people do have to grapple with. When this card is drawn, the game is over. If you were one step away from Jerusalem and you didn't get there, well, you're still as much of a loser as everyone else who wasn't. So that's it. That's a game of Battle of Armageddon. And we'll get into my final thoughts on how this game transpires. Is it fun? Is it chaotic? Is it madcap excitement? Is it biblical? Is it kind? We'll find all those questions and answers pretty soon. Okay, final thoughts on the Battle of Armageddon. As always, we go over the cons first, then we go over the pros, then we go over my final thoughts. Let's get the cons out of the way. The biggest focal point for cons is going to be if you are someone who just absolutely rejects the subject matter entirely. I don't think everyone completely is in that particular vein of thought, but there are people, as I've learned from my reviews on ancient civilizations of the Middle East and others, that if anything has a biblical reference connotation or anything, it is outright rejected. Obviously, if you see this and you read it on the shelf, you're probably not even watching this review, or you're doing so in the role of antagonist. So that's one segment. But more importantly, there is an aspect of people who would look at the subject matter of this, but because it is, O(n) squared number of interpretations of what the end times, what scriptural prophecy, what all these things come to mind are. There's the truly literalistic approach, Jenkins and LaHaye kind of stuff. There's the symbolism aspect. There's all manner of points in between. The subject matter is there. Now, I'm only listing it as a con because if it is something where you feel very strongly might be misrepresented or you just don't feel right about it, this is probably not something you're going to want to dive into, even at its awesome price point right now, which is like $20. The rulebook is solid, and I do like that it's solid. I think it's had some refinement. I still always crave. I'm surprised whenever a rulebook doesn't have an actual picture of the game board set up to show you all the pieces on turn one. Especially when you have different rules for different factions and how they come in. It seems like that would have been a really great ad for people just coming into this. No matter how many iterations they've been through this, there's going to be new people coming in, particularly if they get a sale on it, coming in and going, what? In this game, particularly, not only turn one, but it might be even cool to see turn one and then an example of turn two, because not everything starts on the board and stuff. So that would have been nice to have. Thankfully, because I'm a person who wants to have stuff set up just right, I'm not someone who goes off the rulebook very much. I was able to take pictures, I placed them onto Board Game Geek, I got an answer within a day that helped me understand, yes, this is how you set it up, and so no issues there with that. Just something I thought was, for all the great examples that have, particularly in some, we'll get into that with the pros. The nations play very differently, and you're going to have to deal with that when you take a particular nation, that you're going to have to play it differently. It is not simply my units against your units. There's timing issues, there's special ability issues, there's delayed issues as far as when you actually can start feeling like you're getting into the fray. There's a whole lot of things that play a part in this, so realize that if you don't lean into the best case strategy of your nation, you probably won't do well. Even if you do, chaotic speaking, you might still not do well. It is the end of the world after all. It's just, yeah. At this point, you're just, yeah. Anyway, the other thing is this is kind of a throwback to the old mechanisms where if you have a nation, they move all their units, then the next nation moves all their stuff. There's no interleaving here. Modern games tend to be a little bit more like, hey, don't slip back and don't do these different or pick these different sort of like interleaved, you just move these units, use map. No, this one, you move all your units, you do all your stuff, the next player does other stuff. Again, there are chaos elements that will change what I'm saying, but there you go. And speaking of chaos, this game is utter chaos. If you are someone who loves to quietly and distinctly plan and prepare and be deliberate, you're going to find yourself in dire straits all too often, and you're not going to like the surprises that it's going to throw at you. This game is filled with surprises. It's kind of a trademark and a tenet of the game to do so. It is Armageddon after all. I mean, everything's going away. Kaboom. And the use of, again, like subject matter-wise, the use of like nukes, it's in there. It's not glorified, but it's in there. And then finally, there's one really large issue to take into account, and that is what I call the Killer Bundies conundrum. If you ever played a kid's game called Killer Bundies or Kinder Bunnies, what happens is you can play that entire game. Killer Bunnies has 8 carrots that you're supposed to grab, and when everyone's got all 8 carrots, then the game's done. Well, what that happens is you can play your best game. You could just dominate. You could get 7 of those carrots. And then some person just happens to come upon getting the last carrot. The way Killer Bunnies works is at the end of the game, you randomly shuffle and whatever carrot, not random, whatever carrot comes up, that's the winner. So you're not really playing to win, or you don't even know if you will win. You just know that your chances of winning are great. Chances are you play enough of the games it'll be in your favor. And that's one of the things that drove some people nuts, and other people were like, hey, I don't mind it. This is chaos. This is fun. You have to be on that mindset for this game. Because, to quote scripture, no one knows the hour or the day. No one knows when the end of the game will happen. Yes, there is a way, a very unusual way, to win as a secondary alternative. But in general, there's a card in the game that says, well, the game is over. And where that is in the deck, there have been a lot of discussions. The designer is very firm on this. Nope. Like, it's in there. Like, if the Lord don't know the hour of the day, I don't know either. And that's kind of how the game works. It's thematic, but it's going to basically drive some people nuts, going that you could not even have a chance. Like, you could be the East, and if that card is in the first 5 cards, you're not even going to get halfway across the map before you find out you lost. Now, it's almost better to lose real quick. If it's in the first third of the deck or whatever, you don't know. You could go into this game and not even know that you would have had no chance of winning. It's predestiny. It's basically, tulip for the win. It was Calvinism incarnate. Like, this is what happens, and you were born to lose. So that's something that might drive some people nuts, going like, I'm the Kings of the East. I want to hurry over. There are things you can do to mitigate that, or at least to try and make the odds of that less, just like in Killer Bunnies. There's things you can do by not trying to get that deck to cycle too fast and stuff, but there you go. Those are the cons, or at least the caveats. Now we're going to get into the pros. The subject matter is really well treated. I really like that it's balanced, but it's unpreachy treatment of the whole topic matter, because when you first think, how are you going to mix in angelic powers with mortal units and have it actually just not be everyone trying to go for the angelic powers because they're so darn mighty? Or how are you going to add in nukes to the game that doesn't make it really kind of creepy, whatever? I don't know. It pulls it off. It just makes it's a worthy treatment, no matter whether you're literal or symbolic. The game doesn't lose sight of the fact that it's a game. It takes a subject matter. It's not disrespectful to it. It's not trite with it, and it's not preachy with it. And that's really that's a pretty sweet spot to be in for this type of game. Whatever side, it makes the game this hoot of chaos and destruction without tipping its hand. The combat is great, and when I say that, here's what I mean. In general, like the older style games, because this is like 3rd edition, it's been around a while. But in the general idea, even the older games, it's like it's all a dice fest. Like your tank, you roll 2 dice instead of 1, or takes 2 hits or whatever. And generally speaking, that gets rote. This doesn't work because you have a simple layering, but it's simple but effective. It means that instead of being a dice fest of randomness, you have very simple concepts that you take into account, but you still get this nice feel that you are being somewhat tactical. You have your terrain, and your terrain makes a difference in the ordering of when stuff happens. You've got your air power. It's not overwhelming. You're not managing a million units, but you still have your air power going first. You have your Marines. They can come in, and for the U.S. and Europe, you have that situation, or the paradrops or whatever, but you have your Marines coming in. They get a first chance in this particular situation. You've got stacking limits that matter. You don't get a killer stack. You do got to stretch things out. The one oddity here is that when you're rolling for hits, you're looking at the source to match, not the target, and that tripped people up a little bit, where they're like, I'm going after a tank, I'm rolling to see if I hit a tank. No, it's like I'm shooting with a tank, I'm rolling to see if this dice will match the tank, and then hits happen in a different way as they resolve. The flow of combat is quick, but at the same time, it's not simplistic and boring. It's a really good mix of the whole army approach of all these stacking things. You do this tier, and then this tier, and then this tier, and each time units are getting hit, but everyone has a fair chance for the most part. If you if you're even if you're attacking over a river, well, you go last. Well, that's a nice simple way to explain that you shouldn't attack over rivers unless you really have to. Um, the economic ramifications are cool as well. You're playing these cards to try to wheedle down on reinforcements because this game is chaos. You're going to have reinforcements flying in, coming out, like stuff's going to get destroyed. It's chaos. It's Armageddon, people. And so that's something that you'll want to that I found is really interesting in a nice way, not to just make it a map fest. It's also a way to jockey and mess with people's ability to regenerate and continue. The nations are very distinct, and I really like that. If you're playing Israel, if you're playing the Jews, you're like, okay, we want closure real fast. If you're playing the Arabs, you're less closure because you want to get in and take out Jerusalem. If you're the kings of the East, you want this to go a long time because you want to have time to get all the way over there with your massive armies and your extra double stack, cheeseburgers going in and attacking the crap out of people to take over Jerusalem because it's all about Jerusalem. And so that, then you've got the North. You've got the Magog coming in, and they've got special abilities, and all the cards are different too. The special abilities of each card, which we'll get into in a second, also are different per unit. And so, with the Americans and the Europeans, you're going to have to worry about things like where you're going to put your units, how you're going to move them in, how you're going to move across the map. There's a lot of freedom here, but a lot of restraint on a per nation basis that changes how things work. The alliances are critical and fluid. I really like this game best at 6. I just do. You need 6 people with the right mindset. Not easy, but even if you pulled this out and played it once a year with 6 people, you'd still have a raucous time. Probably play it twice in a row, even unless the first game you went to the last card. That can happen. The chaos fits this better than any other. It's another for example, in Ancient Civilizations of the Middle East, a game that before it there was and it was chaos too. Like at any point anything could happen. Great big like external unnatural things would happen and stuff. That was a little harder fit than this. And this is all textually and scripturally and gameplay wise fitting in. You want this petri dish of pain for everything going around. Again, like the angelic realm, when all hell or heaven breaks loose, they give you these game changers every turn that are like, and you read a quick revelation here, you're going to see the angels coming in, and they're all like angry. They're angry elves. And they're like, boom, boom, boom. And, like having your turn halted mid-turn. Again, some people aren't going to like that, but you got to be prepared for it. Like, and then somebody comes in and like all your plans are gone. Big, huge, seismic changes going on. At the same time, like the one card, we're like, all desert units, you're done. Splat. Like reinforcements flying in and out like it's, O'Hara Airport on Christmas Eve. It's just crazy. And the last thing I really like is that the notes in the manual, I really like when people give notes, and there's some really good notes in the manual that give real credence to the natural posture to the game's theme, so that when all this chaos is going on in the end, it's the end of the world as we know it. And so that's kind of my thoughts on that. So Battle for Armageddon, is it for everyone? Probably not, but in the right mood, with the right 6 people, or even 4, or even 2, this is raucous and crazy, end of the world level blast. What Ancient Civilizations of the Middle East was for the past, this is for the future. So if you get a chance to see it, again, it was really inexpensive on the Compass Games website, and you're into that topic, and you want something that's respectful but not, that'll still have a little fun at the expense of the end of the world. It won't shake your theology, but it might shake the table when someone gets their turn interrupted. So anyway, that's it. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time on Harebrained Games.